All right, how you doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So what I'm going to call this podcast is Everyone Suffers. So I did a podcast. Actually, one of the original podcasts I did was regarding the law of attraction. I think I called it, Is It Legit or Full of Shit? And I loved actually studying the law of attraction for like a decade. I like the premise of it. I do think a lot of people, though, have unrealistic expectations that if they just believe in certain things without any action, that stuff's going to happen. And I think it's ridiculous. But I do think if you take action, and obviously if you believe in yourself, and you believe, I do believe, if you believe that you deserve something, I definitely think you should go after it and you should get it, especially if it's good. But in this case, the flip side of it, excuse me, suffering. So I talk a lot about with my mother actually regarding things in this nature, and she's always praying, which is good. And there's different types of prayers. You got people that out there that are praying for things to happen for them and others, which is wonderful. And then you have people praying to prevent things from happening or to others, which could be sickness, or if they're going through certain things, stopping something, and kind of same with when praying for something to move forward, that you want to move forward and get something, or like I said, you want to prevent something from going any further. It's a very interesting dynamic, praying. I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but back to suffering. My mother's, she's been really obsessed with being a Catholic and being very religious for a majority of her life, starting, I think, in her early 20s. So she hung around with a lot of older people throughout her life. Because a lot of Catholics, all different ages, mainly Italians and Filipinos, I think, for the most part, that I remember. And she used to have all these prayer meetings and obviously going to Bible studies and to church too. So it's kind of a blend between being a Catholic and a Christian, which I think a lot of them do that. I was also involved with that. My mother would make me go to Bible study every Wednesday. And then on Sundays was CCD, and then Mass. And then whatever else came up. My mother would also have St. Joseph tables. She had such massive St. Joseph tables because she's such an extraordinary cook. She'd have to put them in gymnasiums, and they would wrap around. There'd be so many people, not just like 500,000. Like, it'd be unbelievable how many people came to my mother's St. Joseph tables. She did that actually for my daughter too, who had a liver transplant. So. And then she'd have, they would have the Mother Mary statue go from house to house and all these different types of things. And there was a lot of older people my mother hung out with in these situations with religion. And now that my mother is going on 70, she looks unbelievable. But most of her friends, tons of her friends, have passed away. And it's almost like the last decade especially. Every time I talk to her, someone has died, or somebody has gotten cancer, or somebody has, whatever the case may be. I don't have to get into all the different types of things people have had. But I almost feel like, she's suffering sometimes. And I look at life sometimes. If you're going to live a long, prosperous life, or just not even prosperous financially, just prosperous as far as life, like getting the best out of life, you are going to be suffering throughout it, and you have to take a realistic approach at that. You cannot pretend you're not going to be hurt at different times, be betrayed, lied to, and again, people passing away that you love very much. Losing those people are devastating. I mean, my mother says to this day, like, all her prayer partners at this point are gone, which kind of, blows you away a little bit. And there were tons of them. I mean, she belonged to all these organizations, and like I said, a lot of them were older, so she joined when she was younger. So if they're all, 10, 15, 20 years older than her at that point, they're all now, her going on 70, they were all in their 80s or 90s and above. And, I look at life sometimes, it's a very unique ride. And, getting older, how did I word it? What my mother, I got to think about how to say this correctly. Is it a gift getting older, or a curse to a certain degree? Of course, we all want to live longer, right? I think for the most part, a lot of us want to see. I think what happens is we have children, a lot of us, and then we want to see our kids, what they, enjoy our life with our children. And then if they have children, it's kind of a curiosity, I think, to a certain degree. But I also think the older we're getting, or the older we get, the more we're going to have to deal with a lot of things, especially physically, that you're going to go through. As far as, you're very few people I know, regardless how healthy of a lifestyle they lead, as they get older, things just start to break down. Physically, like even it could be your teeth, right? Your eyes, your bones. You could come, a lot of people now, it seems like, are just, cancer seems like it's so much more popular than when I was younger. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's just so many more people. A lot of different things, I think, are just maybe more out in the open. But again, the longer you live, unless you, some people have the genetics to pull it off. My mother and father are very genetic. They have incredible genetics. And my mother actually even ended up beating breast cancer, which is amazing in itself. But they're very fortunate because they're still very strong. They're very active. I'm going on a cruise with my mom. My dad still goes to all these car shows. They are active. But even like my father said, he quit going to his high school reunions because he'd go to them. And I'd hate to say this, he said he just got so depressed because he would see, for one, all the people that passed. And then also a lot of his friends were just, they were just old and decrepit. A lot were in wheelchairs, some on oxygen, some with illnesses, some lost weight, some are obese. It just said it emotionally took a toll on him. And I never thought about it because I never went to my high school reunions, to be honest with you. And, back to suffering. I don't know, everybody, I think, no matter who you are, especially if you live a long life, is going, to suffer to a certain degree. And how you handle that is entirely up to you. I've seen a lot of people where they've suffered and it destroyed their lives by suffering, like even when they're younger. They just carry something with them. It's something horrific happened in their life personally or to a family member or friend. And it's almost like baggage. I call it anchors. And they keep carrying those anchors, right? And they can't seem to cut those anchors or put them on and, sail on. And that's understandable. And then also I've seen people that, like, they suffer, but they just know how to push through it, right? They're almost is it a beacon, I think? Or I think maybe that's the word. Like somebody who's very strong and no matter what happens, keeps everything together. And I'm not going to say they're always positive, but nothing's going to stop them from moving forward. And I think a lot of grandparents that you may have seen, I think have gone through that, especially my grandparents that I've had from overseas in Italy and stuff. They had a different mindset that I saw. Very tough people. Even my grandmother, who's Italian, not from Italy, extremely tough. And, you're not going to break them, no matter what happens, no matter who gets ill, no matter who's sick, no matter who died. They just have the courage to move forward. They're broken at the time, but they know how to move forward in ways, just very strong and very durable. My grandmother, even on my father's mother, had a stroke and was paralyzed, half her body, and still insisted to do everything, independent. I look back and I was just a teenager when I lost her, but gosh, I wish she was around because my father always talks about how strong she was, how she cooked for like all these different men, all Italians, and my family owned one of the, if not the largest garment shop in Chicago, so they had hundreds of employees that they were in charge of. And both my grandmother and my grandfather were, just very driven. And I guess that's the word, I should say driven more than anything. But I didn't want to get too negative on this going through misery or talk about that. But I do think if you're younger, I don't care if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you're going to face a lot of problems. I did a podcast actually regarding, problems, which I don't like problems, but a lot of times people don't realize they're the problem. But in this case, if I look back at earlier my life, when I got married, and then if you fast forward 25 years from then, if you would have told me I would have went through what I went through, I would have been like, I don't want to go through that. Maybe I would have been like, hell no, I don't want to go through that. But now that I went through it, I'm like, hell yeah, that made me exactly who I am. I was meant to go through that, especially having daughters that both actually have illness to a certain degree. One had a liver transplant, one has type 1 diabetes, which, that's their own thing they have to go through, which again, I can look at that and be actually miserable because truthfully, I was miserable. And I felt like I made it about myself when the reality, it's not about you. I had to be there for both of my daughters, and that goes for anybody that has gone through anything around me in their life. I a lot of times we want to make it about ourselves, and we bring on this misery instead of actually, being somebody who's going to be more positive and confident to help them get through whatever they have to get through. And I go through that with my mother all the time. A lot of people when they talk to her, like, oh, I feel horrible for this person, right? It's always, I feel so bad for this or so bad for that. And I get you want to feel that way, and it's your right to. But I think if you look at it from the perspective, instead of feeling bad for them, because I had to go through this, I have to help them. I have to be strong and show them how to be strong. And I did that, hopefully, with my daughters, especially my youngest one who had the liver transplant. People were always constantly saying, how do you go through this? How do you live through this? I'm like, I'm not living through it. My daughter is. But I'm not letting this stop me or stop us from doing or treating her any different. I think I learned that from my ex-wife because she was really amazing through everything. She didn't give a shit about anything. She just kept moving forward. She just marched on, which was kind of for me to learn to say, wow, because I was very upset. You have a daughter that's sick, and you start judging, like, why did this happen to us? God, why'd you do this to me? Or whatever the case, whatever issues I had, I'm pissed off. And I still do get upset sometimes regarding my daughters having to both go through illnesses. It's very aggravating, or whatever they have to go through. I don't know if it's an illness, and I had to realize, like, I am not going to treat my kids any different than anybody else treats theirs. And I'm not allowing anybody else to treat them any different either. And people used to say, are you nuts? Because I used to take my daughters to all sports activities. They're like, she had a liver transplant. You got to be careful. I said, I don't give a shit. She is not going to think she's any different, and she's not going to be treated any different. She already knew she was different, though. Obviously, when you spend 5 years in and out of a hospital in your life, a majority of it, you're going through things that other kids aren't, and other kids are saying things. But I wanted her to know we are strong. Our family, our unit, we are strong people. Not only sports, I used to take her to all the theme parks constantly in Orlando, Florida, and people are like, oh my God, there's so many people there. She's going to get sick. She's going to get diseases. I used to travel with her. I said, I am going to build her immune system up, not make it any weaker than it is. Because a lot of times, they take pills to lower their immune system. But I wanted to build her up. And sure, we had ups and downs to a certain degree. But it's amazing where she started and where she ended up. And I truly believe a lot of that was because I mentally, hopefully, you program your children, no matter what anybody tells you. I wanted to program her to let her know she is strong, regardless of what she's going through. So I just thought I would do a podcast on that. But yeah, pay attention to life in general, is what I tell people. And don't be unrealistic, because again, if you plan on living a long, healthy life, a lot of things are going to come your way that are shocking. I just got shocked a month ago. A good friend of mine just passed away who was very healthy. He's actually like a local celebrity. And I saw him. We go to this big gala every year. It's called the Margarita Ball in Orlando, Florida. And I usually get his tickets for him. And then we go there. We all hang out. He's a famous hairstylist. I don't want to name his name, but he was a gold medalist, world champion. He was rated the number one hairstylist in the world at one time, and then the bronze. And so we all saw each other at the Margarita Ball, and he always takes pictures with my girlfriend Rhea, which is wonderful. And he's just been a good friend of mine for a long time, ever since my daughter was modeling back like 15 years ago. And he used to cut my mom's hair. He used to cut my stepmother's hair. He had his own salon. And I saw him at the gala. margarita ball, and we talked real fast, and then we had to take off, and then we're leaving, and I said, hey, wait a minute. I said, Rhea, go take a picture. Come on, every year you guys take pictures together. We took pictures. And then a few days later, I get a Facebook messenger from my daughter's, her agent, her model agent from years ago. She's the one who introduced me to him, and said, Rich, he passed away. And I says, what are you talking about? I was just with him a few days ago. I guess he caught pneumonia, or he had pneumonia, and he just passed away in his sleep. And he was fit. He traveled all over the world, and he looked like $1,000,000. What's interesting, I was telling him, your skin looks amazing, because he travels all over the world. He takes pictures, and I said, man, do you look I says, and I always tell him he was like the most handsome dude I've ever met, one of them in my life. And I was just like, my God, you just hold it together so well. And we always laugh. And then he's gone. And it was miserable. I mean, back to misery. I was like, it really was, my mother said it was an eye-opener to a certain degree. Like, you just sometimes get these type of things, and it's shocking. And how you go through them. Now, I'm not saying I'm always with him, or that really had that monster of effect on me. But your family members, friends, and colleagues are going to pass away. They're also going to get probably sick. Some of them, you may even have kids that are sick. You may have parents that are sick. You may be sick. It's miserable, right? And I get it, but you're going to have to look at that instead of weakening you, strengthening you. I think that's the only way sometimes to get through certain things, and it is heartbreaking. And I go through that with my father's side of the family. My father of his generation is the only one left. All his brothers, sisters, all the brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws are all gone, except one sister-in-law, but she's, my aunt, but she's not blood. But they're all gone. And I look at that, and I feel all the time when our whole family gets together on that side of the family, I am missing all them, because those are the ones my mother and father were divorced, so I was always with them, because if I had to go anywhere, I had to be with adults, which was all my aunts and uncles. So they were all like my second mothers and fathers, or whatever the case may be, even though I had all my cousins. But I'm always looking for them, and I always dream about them. And I sometimes get really upset that they're all gone. And now on my mother's side of the family, I have a bunch of aunts and uncles that are all older, actually all going into their 80s, or some are going into their 90s, and we're so fortunate we have all of them. I'm going on a cruise with them this year in about a week, and I'm looking forward. All my great aunts, all my great uncles, and a majority of them, like I said, except for one, is not here. And I tell my kids, and I tell all my cousins, and I tell everyone, enjoy every second of them, because in 10 years, I don't know what it's going to be like, but in my other side of the family, in 10 years, most of my aunts and uncles were all gone. And I think this, in the future, may happen with my other aunts and uncles. And I was so fortunate, because I also, a few years ago, went with my great uncles. My dream was to go to Italy with my Italian uncles, and we all went together. Best trip I've ever had of my life. Did I say that correctly? Well, anyways, we had a trip there, not a dream there. And I'm telling you, I'm going to wrap it up with this. If you have family members that are a lot older, elderly, grandparents, enjoy every second of them. Now that you have an iPhone, videotape them. Have fun. Build memories with them. I shot a bunch of videos when I was making my films of my great-grandmother. And it was my kid's great, and I filmed her all the time, and I have her telling Italian stories and all this. She lived in 93, and I cherish those videos, and so does my family. And then when we do certain family get-togethers, they're massive, we show those videos. And I'm fortunate enough, I still have my grandmother, my mother's mother. She's going on the trip with us, the cruise as well, and she's going on, I don't know, my mother, she's like 80, what is she? My mom's 69, 85-ish. She still gets around, and I try to enjoy every moment I can with her. And I know she has some illnesses, so I just went and brought her a big Italian scarf. So enjoy those moments, I'm telling you, because a lot of times we kind of blow off all the great things and great times we can have with these family members. And do those type of things, and try to talk to I talk about this all the time, try to talk to your mom every day, your dad every day if they're alive, your siblings, whoever you love, because they're not going to always be there. You may not always be there. But the one thing I realized is when I lost people that I truly loved, but I always put the effort in to be with them and have memories with them, I kind of think about the great times with them, not all the times that I didn't get to spend with them, or why did I blow them off, or why didn't I take time to do this, or, more of a loving type thing, because that's just how I think I get over the misery, I guess you could say, of losing them. That's how I look at it. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, you might want to check out my YouTube videos. I've been putting up a lot of different fitness stuff, actually, more than anything else, and restaurants. I've been visiting all over. What did I do? I was in Boston, Boston. I did Italy there. I did Vegas, Italy, those restaurants. I did some stuff in San Diego. I was recently there, Encinitas to be exact. Also downtown Little Italy, San Diego. So didn't want to make a bummer podcast, but now that I was going on this trip with my entire family, I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm telling you, no matter who you are going to have to go through a lot of things in your life. So just be kind of prepared for it and understand that is going to happen. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up there. You can also check me out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you're traveling, safe travels.